So, today's hot take is slightly different than usual because I found an image on Twitter about someone's opinions. So, I just want to kind of just say what I can see and then we'll discuss it a bit more and talk about it. So, they've said, my dream Dragon Ball series would have Dragon Ball Z story, OG Dragon Ball's fights, Super's soundtrack, and the Broly animation, like the Broly film animation style. What do you think about that? And what would your layout be and why, I guess?
I think, to be honest, some of the best fighting I've seen is arguably Broly. The
Yeah.
Broly fighting is fantastic. It's 40 minutes or something like that of just beautiful fight animation. Some of the best I've seen from Dragon Ball, hands down. In terms of the music, I think that's tough for me. I'll be honest. I think it depends if you're thinking of intro or if you're thinking of actually in show music.
Yeah.
Because HLR is like one of the classics.
It is, yeah. I don't think you can class intro music. It's got to be like the show back-end tracks and stuff.
In-game.
Yeah.
But the super music is excellent. It has emotional impact. I think the Black Saga especially has some very good music that I really like.
Yeah.
It follows through very well with the sinister nature of Zamasu and how he very much enjoys punishing mortals. I think the music resonates very well with that. Animation style.
Yeah.
I could never really get into the that's what made me struggle with watching OG is I couldn't do the animation of OG. I think it just feels a bit too dated for me.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I think in terms of animation, I do enjoy the super animation. I think it's very clean. But then again, I have a special Z's animation holds a very special place in my heart. So I think music. I think it's weird, but Super, when you think about it, has done a lot of good stuff. When you think about it, in terms of story, I think Z's got the best story for me. But in terms of animation and fighting, I think it's getting to its peak now. I think it's at its peak now in my eyes. And I know a lot of people may disagree with that view. And like we were saying with the 23rd tournament and everything like that, there were a lot of impressive things happening. It's where you were getting introduced to a lot of new moves and everything like that. But I just think that back then, when that came, you could not have 45, like you could not have the level of combat that you saw in the Broly movie. I just don't, to that caliber, I just don't think it was possible to be as good as that, in my opinion. So I just think with the animation styles that are available and the technology that's allowing you to do that, without going too far into the CG realm, which I don't think they did in Broly. I think they did a very good balance of CG and animation.
I agree.
Which is my worry for the new film. I don't want them to go too far CG. I think they've done very well, and I think they have gone off on some of the story elements. I think that's where Super has let themselves down in some cases. I think for me, Z's where the story lies. And Super's got the rest. But again, unfortunately, I don't know enough about OG, if I'm honest, to really pull the rest of it into it. I would have to leave that in your capable view.
Yeah, fair enough. I guess. So what you're saying is, so let's just lay them out. So for story, which one are you picking?
Story Z.
Yeah.
So story Z for me. Fights Super.
Yeah, music.
Music is again probably Super.
And
the third one was animation style is probably. This is a tough one. It's bouncing between the two. I do think Super's very clean, but I am biased towards Z, and I think I prefer Z's because of where it holds a special place for me.
Yeah.
And like I said, Super's very clean and everything like that, and I do like it. I couldn't get into OG because of how dated it was. I think if I'd watched it originally, I may have got the nostalgia from it that I've got from Z. Because when you look back on Z and you see like the size of the foreheads and everything like that, it does look kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
But to me, that's what Dragon Ball is. It's like a lot of animes, they don't look 100% like people. They all have adapted, like they all just look stupid in some way. So they don't. So that's just Dragon Ball to me. So that's pretty normal. So to me, that's what Dragon Ball is. So I imagine for you, I'm going to take a guess, and I wouldn't be surprised if you said the animation would be OG. So mine leads into 2 Supers and 2 Zs.
Well, you'll be surprised. So I'll start with animation since we mentioned that first. The animation style I like the most. So you mentioned OG, and I do like OG, and Dragon Ball Z kind of upped that a bit more. I do prefer Dragon Ball Z's animation over OG's animation, just because they kept it the same style except made it slightly better. Then in Super, we've all heard the arguments about some of the episodes being really bad animation, where they were just rushed and the characters look bad and stuff. But if you compare as a whole, if you compare like the good episodes of Super compared to the good episodes of Z, well, from any episode of Z, I guess, there's a very, very distinct difference. Whereas in Z, there's a lot of shading on the clothing. They really spent a lot of time on each individual frame. Whereas in Super, it's a lot more simplified, but more colourful, and everything stands out a bit more. Z is gritty and sharp and, that powerful animation that you're used to, whereas Super is a bit more light-hearted, friendly animation style, which still works for the fight scenes and, well, the entire show, but it is completely different to Z. There's no comparison. But the animations of the film as well, especially Broly, is just like an upped version of Super. They spent, because it's a movie, of course, they spend more time on the movie making sure absolutely everything is perfect frame by frame. And they threw in a bit of CGI, which I personally don't mind. I don't mind it. So for the animation style, I'm gonna have to go with the movie, like the Broly movie animation style, just because I know it's impossible for them to do the show weekly episodes in that style, but it is to me the best animation because they have that more time. If they spent the amount of time they spent on the film on each individual episode of the anime, by far it will be the best animation, 100%. I think that's hard to argue.
Oh yeah, so, obviously.
Yeah. So
I think that's the thing. Like, when I was picking my animation choices, obviously I was forgiving the errors. I was going by the majority. Like everyone knows the mistakes that were made. They're quite obvious, but you could say like 90% of it is very clean.
Yeah.
So yeah,
of course, yeah. But I do like Super's animation, but the film is just the show version, but upped for theatrical release. So I'm gonna have to go with the animation of the films, which would be great. For the story, I'm gonna go OG Dragon Ball story. The arc progression from the very start to the very end of OG Dragon Ball, so many things happen, so many things change. You see the main character grow through time, becoming from a kid to a teenager to a young adult. All of the arcs that happen in between with the Red Ribbon Army, with Piccolo, and everything else that happens. Him meeting Kame for the first time, him climbing up the Korin's Tower, meeting Bulma, all of that stuff, him interacting in the city, going from like a forest child into like learning how to act in public. All of the tournament arcs, everything in between, everything about the Dragon Ball original story is great. Every arc is fun and there's good moments. There's powerful moments with fights. It's lighthearted. And I do think they try to bring that back a bit in Super, whereas Z was very much focused on being serious and very focused on the fights. Super did try to bring that lighthearted feel back to it, which I really enjoy. But they got that from original Dragon Ball. Original Dragon Ball was the perfect mix, I think. So I'd love to see that story and the arc progressions like they did there as the story choice. For the fights, I'm gonna have to go with probably Z. Probably Dragon Ball Z fights. They do have some really good fights. You know, the Broly film fight was incredible, of course, but some of the fights in Dragon Ball Z are unforgettable. The entire fight with Frieza and Goku, the fight with Goku and Vegeta, you know, all of the Cell Game stuff that happens. Every character pretty much throughout Dragon Ball Z has a moment to shine at some point in a fight. There's cool moments, cool special moves. Like, I am a huge fan of the original Dragon Ball, and I really, really like the martial arts fights that happen. But as far as special technique goes, there isn't too many compared to in Z. Like, there's a couple of things here and there which are great and they're good to see that stand out. The Kamehameha, of course, but as far as interest in like beam moves, there isn't really any apart from the Kamehameha. So yeah, with Z, every character pretty much has a beam move as well as fighting moves as well. So it kind of doubles the amount of things that can happen in a fight. So I'm all for Z's fight. And for music, I'm also gonna have to go with Dragon Ball Z. It was close for me though, between Z and OG Dragon Ball. But Dragon Ball Z, there is so many good backing tracks throughout. Obviously, great ones in the Cell Saga with Gohan at the very end. But throughout all of Dragon Ball Z, there's so many moments. You could go back and watch any episode of Dragon Ball Z, I think, and just from the music alone, you know what's going to happen if you've already seen it. The music makes the show, and yeah, the music in Z especially is incredible, and I love it. So yeah, those are my four picks, I guess. The story of OG, the fights and music of Dragon Ball Z, and the animation style of the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think with this take, I don't think there's a way to say it's a good take or a bad take or anything like that. I think this is just an opinion take. Yeah. I don't think. I think unless someone's locking in everything to one, I would, because I think every single one has its strengths. I would say that each one definitely has something where it shines. And I think to say it doesn't wouldn't be fair to each part of the show. I think every part, but yeah, I mean, the fights in Z are brilliant. It was like we were talking about this in the last podcast when I was I think it was the last podcast when I was talking about the Gohan fight with the androids, and it was like how much I love the fight, and it was some fantastic choreography, which is a robbery of why he should have won it. It's great, and like in the choreography itself, you see when he's beaten before he's even beaten. So it tells a story, which is what you want in a fight. A fight's great if they're impressive punches, but if your fight is telling a story, then your fight's doing what it should. And that's something that I like about the Broly fight as well, is you see Broly's escalation as well. You see him becoming more and more stressed and he's becoming more powerful. But for instance, you see the fear in him when Vegeta turns Red God. You see the stress in him as he fights. So he's not just a mindless animal attacking. He realizes that something's not right. And yeah, he obviously does escalate and he becomes ridiculously strong and he catches up. But again, it is telling a story throughout the fight. But you're right. In terms of impressiveness, and I think the choreography of the fights I prefer in Broly and everything like that. But there is definitely a story in some of the Z fights that are very, very impressive.
Yeah, and I was just thinking there as well. if they just decided let's remaster original Dragon Ball, but in Dragon Ball Super's art style, I honestly think just because of the story alone, that will be the most popular Dragon Ball series. Because a lot of people haven't seen original Dragon Ball and they don't give it a chance because of the art style. And I think if it was modernized, then people would love it because it's the story that makes the show. And the only reason Dragon Ball Z happened is because original Dragon Ball was so popular. So people really need to give Dragon Ball a chance. And I would love to see it remastered. I think that would be so good. I would watch the entire thing again, definitely.
I don't think the story's outdated either.
No,
I
it's not.
mean,
It's really
looking
good.
back on it, I mean, like I said, I've not seen all of it. I've seen fair chunks of it. I've seen large amounts of it. But I can honestly, I've never seen it full on start to finish. But I've seen large amounts of it. I'm confident enough to talk through the story of it. And there's definitely enough story there. You wouldn't say this is dated or boring or anything like that. Like, there is a hell of a story there. Like, the 23rd that we've said, like, why we enjoy it so much is how much happens there, how much character development's there. Literally, if you were to turn around and in the next arc in Super, is like an origin story of how Chi-Chi and Goku met, and you were to tell the 23rd, there would be such a large, like, arguably 50% or more of the audience would have no idea what the 23rd tournament is in any way, shape, or form. And I think it would be very interesting to see. And they would get to see Piccolo fight, and they'd be fascinated watching Piccolo and Goku fighting. And they'd see Tien, and he'd actually be like actually holding his own against Goku, thinking, wow, Tien was just this guy who got kicked out at the Tournament of Power, and he's actually fighting Goku. And it's like,
and he wins.
People would find this really, like they would find stuff like this really interesting because it's not got the point. Because in Super, now you rely on Vegeta, you rely on Goku. Basically, like the new film's going to change that, but only because Goku and Vegeta are busy. Basically, that's what they've had to say, that they're busy. So really getting to go back to the root of things and seeing before things escalate to the level that they're at now, I think people would really enjoy that. And in the art style that you've got now, I think it would look really good. I think it would look fantastic.
Especially just because a lot of people won't even know that Tien and Yamcha were originally bad guys. Like, people just think, especially if they start with Z, they'll just think, oh, these are just Goku's friends, I guess. And that's it, which they are, but they didn't start that way. Like, everyone Goku meets becomes a friend. Like, even Krillin, he wasn't an enemy, but he was like his rival for a good portion of the first time you see Krillin. Like, Krillin isn't an instant friend or anything. He's his enemy, he's his rival who he's trying to be stronger than. And Krillin is obsessed and jealous of Goku to begin with until he realizes that Goku is friendly and a light-hearted guy, and he begins to trust him and open up to him more. So to see everything in Dragon Ball Super's art style would be incredible to me. And just everything that plays out is so good. That's why I've had to pick original Dragon Ball for the story, because there's too many things. Like you mentioned, they rely too heavily on Goku and Vegeta now. In original Dragon Ball, Goku doesn't win until the very end. Every arc he's losing, and whether that's to Master Roshi or to Tien or to Piccolo or to whoever, he is constantly losing and losing and losing, and he doesn't get a win until the very end of the show. And they just can't do that anymore because there's always someone big and badder who he has to beat. But that didn't happen in Dragon Ball. He constantly lost until the very end.
It's like a previous hot take, isn't it? Where it's like, Goku, there's always a bigger bad and stuff like that. Like, yeah, there is always a bigger bad. We've said that there's always going to be a bigger bad, and there has to be. But like, yeah, this would be a nice acknowledgement of that, of back to of when things were simpler, and I think that could be good. I think in terms of the take, I don't think it's a good take or a bad take. Yeah, I think the question it poses is a very good question. It's a very good topic that people should talk about.
Yeah.
And I think we've had a good talk about this, and I think like even though we have quite different outcomes on it, I think things we've raised are
Personal
like
preference.
in terms of like the fight, we didn't pick the same thing, but even though our choices, we still agree on how good they are.
Yeah.
So I think we can appreciate our choices even though they're totally different, and I think that's what matters.
Yeah.
So I don't disagree, but I like the take.
Yeah, I like the take. It's good for discussion, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone can really argue with anyone that like anything that's picked, because there is no right or wrong answer. So I like it. And yeah, we've both given
Yep.
our thoughts on what we like the most and what we would have if we were making our own like perfect Dragon Ball series, I guess. But yeah,